Welcome everybody with a new episode of our webinars. I'm Barry Kassab, an MCA Market Development from Shure. Today I'm very excited to also have on board two of my good friends, two guests from the scene actually. The first one is a vocalist and a emerging podcaster. His name is Adnan. And the other one is a very good guitarist, vocalist, and an audio engineer. Goes by the name of JM. And we will actually have a very good show today, which we're going to handle all the aspects related to podcasting. Now, remember last week we talked about the setups in terms of how you need to set up your room, what are the ingredients and what are the aspects that makes your room even sound better than a normal room. And we covered plenty of that aspects and all the variants that you can actually accommodate that by stuff that you can actually buy from the market and not going to the highly professional stuff that might hurt your wallet somehow. So today I gonna handle different kind of microphones on which mics actually work for you if you want to choose for podcasting. I know a lot of people choose microphones based on what is the norm or what people use mostly, but I'm going to give you a bit more wider angle to make a choice. And some of them will be more budget friendly and some of them will be the other way around. Now, to start with, I'm going to switch to my very short presentation just to you guys have an idea. So I'm going to run you through the microphones and tell you what are these microphones made for initially or what they can do. And then I'm going to talk about how they sound like. So I'm just going to literally plug them in and let you hear the sound. Moreover, if you remember last time I was talking about the Motive series, which are the dedicated smartphone microphones made by Shure, which actually helps a lot of people who do not want to go a lot under the surface. I know a lot of the people who want to go into the content, they want to just plug and play, they want to just hit it and start producing their content. So the Motive series are actually quite good in that aspect, and they will help you just kickstart your thing. But also we know some of the microphones really need a kind of a hefty setup or a complicated setup. So we're going to test those as well against these equipment. So first I'm going to share my screen with the presentation. I think by now you should be able to see it. Some people have a bit of delay, but you will have it right on your screen. So the episode today is the second episode of the podcasting basics with Shure microphones. Now, this is the selection of microphones that I will be talking about that are really suitable for podcasting. Some of you recognize some of them. I know many of them might be a kind of a new thing to see. Some of people might recognize some of the microphones, but they didn't know that they are Shure microphones. But I'll go into them one by one. Now, starting from the top left here, the black microphone here, this is an entry-level microphone. It's the PGA58. It's based on the SM58 that everybody knows, the famous SM58 or SM57. This microphone is more budget friendly, so most of the people can afford this microphone, and it sounds really decent. A lot of people misunderstand that the PGA series they kind of interpret that if they are budget microphones, they might sound average or below average. The thing is that our microphones are categorized based on the durability and not the sound quality. So PG Alta as a category, they sound really, really good for the price point. The only thing that they would be different from the SM series or the Beta or even the KSM is the durability on tour. So when you take these microphones on tour, they might not withstand the same environments that the SM series does. Nevertheless, you're going to use it indoors for podcasting. That makes it a very good microphone to consider for your podcasting. So PGA58 is a very close version, or it's a cousin of the SM58, the most famous vocal microphone in the world and on stage. The SM57, which is next here, I know a lot of people who play instruments would recognize this as an instrument microphone. Most known as well as a guitar mic as well for electric guitars. Those who attended my electric guitar webinars remember seeing that on screen and how it sounded like with heavy guitars. But you'll be surprised that this also is part of the presidential kit, which was designed back in the days for the United States president. So it comes with a dual holder, and they insert two SM57s with screens on top or windscreens on top. And then it becomes a very high quality vocal microphone. So for those who'd like to get that signature sound or like that presidential kit signature sound, you are able to do that with the SM57. Jumping next to that is the known and rugged famous SM57. I think most of the people who know Shure would have came in touch with the SM57 as a microphone. So, sorry, SM58. SM58 is a straightforward vocal microphone. It works also as an instrument microphone for certain instruments, but it's a ready vocal microphone with everything you need, right? Just plug it in and you're good to go. After that, we have the Beta 58, which has a slightly different characteristics from the SM58, which is the polar pattern. So it's a super cardioid microphone. Again, I've said that before. I'll say that right now again, is that the SM58 is a cardioid versus Beta, which is a super cardioid. That doesn't mean the word super means supercharged. It's just a different behavior. So to recap on this, a supercardioid rejects a sound from almost the sides or the back, left and right sides. It has a little bit of sensitivity from the center back and a very good sensitivity on the front, or we call it gain before feedback. Nevertheless, it has a slightly narrower pickup angle. That means if you move away from the mic left and right a lot, then you need to consider a cardioid microphone. But on the other hand, if you have any other speakers in the room and you don't want your mic to pick up these speakers if you're doing a podcast, then the supercardioid will be a good choice at that time. Next on the right is the Ksr M9. Ksr M9, it's one of its kind, dual diaphragm dynamic microphone. Also, this microphone is known for its flat frequency response. So the Ksr M9 has the first ability to combat proximity effect. Now, proximity effect means is that when you get closer to the mic, you get a bass buildup, so the mic becomes boomy. So, for example, if I get closer to the mic or further to the mic, the most thing that you could feel is the bass buildup. The Ksr M9 has the ability to have a wider sweet spot, which gives you more combat against bass buildup. So the mic acts omnidirectional on low frequencies while it's properly holding its cardioid polar pattern on the rest of the frequencies. Moreover, it has a very wide pickup angle on the front without losing frequency response. The next two microphones, which is the black, red, and the silver, these are ribbon microphones. And for those who know what ribbon microphones are for, they are known to have a very, very nice and warm sound. So for those who'd like to do a late show kind of vibes or that jazzy, warm sound, then these microphones are amazing for this purpose. And the last two microphones on the right, also dynamic microphones. These are classic microphones. Everybody recognizes them as the classic microphones. The first one with a blue screen is the Super 55, which sounds exactly like the one I'm using right now, just a smaller figure. And it's with a super cardioid polar pattern. And the one on the right is a cardioid microphone, which is tailored more for studio, and it requires a bit more gain. So a lot of people who use the last microphone on the right for live situations, I think this is not the right choice because it's a gain-hungry microphone. That means it's going to be feeding back really easy. Now, all the microphones on the top are dynamic microphones. That means they do not need an external power as a phantom power. Number two, they are easy to plug into your interfaces and get sound out of them. The ribbon microphones generally are known to be hungry for gain, So generally, you need a better interface with these microphones versus the rest. And of course, the last classic microphone, the 55SH, also is a gain-hungry microphone. Now, when we say gain-hungry or requires an additional amount of gain, that means the output of the microphone is not loud enough or not high enough. Doesn't mean that the microphone is not good enough. It's just different characteristics. It's the same way when you have a female singer who has an amazing soft voice, which requires kind of taking care of that. So it doesn't mean that she has a bad voice. Doesn't mean that she's not good in singing. It's just a different characteristics. Now, the second line here, all of these mics except for one is a condenser microphone. But I added the SM7B, which is the first one on the left, which a lot of people recognize that in podcasting and in radio stations. The SM7B is a very famous microphone, was used by Michael Jackson in his Thriller album as his main vocals microphone. So the reason why I put it down on this second level is that this mic has a very similar characteristics to a condenser microphone in terms of tonality, but it is a dynamic microphone, which makes this microphone super hungry for gain. And I think this microphone is one of the most that requires a lot of gain. Sometimes you max your input gain to get juice out of this microphone. So there are solutions to this. Some people use a inline preamp like a cloud lifter or any kind of inline preamp, or some preamps do have a gain addition switch. So usually preamps would do 55 to 60 dBs. Some of them do 45 decibels of gain, but you are able to switch an extra amount of gain by a switch, which adds between 15 to 20 decibels of gain, and then this microphone will sound good. Or you can add compression in line or in your signal chain. Of course, I have a dedicated webinar talking about compressors, but generally in the compressor, you have also an added gain structure. So for those who attended my gain structure webinar, when I talked about this, you might remember how you can actually add gain into your signal chain. Next to the SM7B is the PGA27. It is the younger cousin of the two other mics on the right. PGA27 is a really nice sounding entry-level condenser microphone that is suitable for voiceovers, podcasts, of course, performance as in recording your vocal tracks, and it sounds really, really good for its price point. It'll be one of the mics, of course, that I'm going to demo. I'm going to demo most of these mics today. Next to it is the SM27, a very rugged condenser microphone made also for the same purposes of the PGA27. The Beta 27 has a bit of a twist. It is a super cardioid instrument microphone with 100% flat frequency response. But that makes it very close to what the SM7B is, because the SM7B as well is a flat frequency response microphone. The Beta 27 is known to be as an instrument microphone or overhead microphone, piano microphone. It doesn't color or change the characteristics of the source. Right next to it, we have the Beta 87A, which is a handheld condenser microphone. And this microphone has a very sweet sound. It's known to have a sweeter mids, so it doesn't have that honky or that nasal mids on it. It's a good female vocalist microphone as well. On the right to it, a microphone similar to the KSM8 in the shape, but this is the KSM 9. The KSM 9 has everything that the Beta 87 has, but it has also a switch under the grill where you can change the polar pattern, which helps you even get something easier on stage. So if you want to change your position on stage, your monitoring position on stage, you need to have a super cardioid instead of a cardioid, or vice versa. Just remove the cap, flip the switch, and you change the behavior of the microphone. This microphone sounds pretty much the same as the 87 with a slightly more top end. So it has a bit of more brightness and more flatter frequency response. So the mids are more pronounced. So that means you can actually accommodate things on your EQ. The last two microphones on the right are studio microphones. It's the KSM42 and the KSM44. The 42 is a straightforward Cardioid microphone. Again, exactly like all the other side address microphones, good for voiceover, podcasting, or even tracking. And the same thing with the 44, which is a multi-pattern microphone. So it has an Omni figure 8 and cardioid. And again, this is a studio microphone. And what makes these two microphones different than all the other microphones on the left is that the preamps on these microphones are one of the quietest preamps in the market. There is close to zero noise out of those preamps. So that means it gives you a lot of gain before feedback. Now, I know all of what I said is just chat or talk, and a lot of you want to hear how it sounds like. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go into them one by one, those that I have here on board. So I have a cable right here, and I'm going to switch to my mixer so you can see what's happening on my input. So this is my external mixer that I connect my microphones on. And channel number 2 will be the mic plug or my XLR cable where I'm going to plug things on. So on this channel, you can see there's a bit of EQ, which I'm going to reset or just deactivate. Right now, I'm going to just reset. And the high pass filter is at 29 hertz, which is very low. Usually for vocals, it should be around close to 75 or 80 hertz. So I'm going to keep it around 80 hertz or 79, sorry. And I'm going to plug in microphones one by one, which I have here in my studio. So the first one will be the SM57. Here we go. Now it's plugged in. First, before I unmute, let me just check my gain input. Oh, that's a bit high. I'm going to go down to 30 decibels. I think that will be good. Now I'm going to mute my 55 here. And now I'm using my SM57 and probably a slightly more gain here would make you hear the microphone. So this is the mic with zero equalization. You can see that it's really nice and tight for vocals. You can see that the high frequency response is quite bright on this microphone because the grill limits close to nothing from that. So if I want to switch from the SM57 right now to the SM58, you're going to notice that the highs is going to be slightly darker. So I have here my UAE flagged SM58. Let me switch to it. Now I'm using my SM58, and you can notice that the highs is less. The S's are a bit darker, and it's allowing the mids to pass through even more freely. So you can notice that it's a more adequate vocal microphone than the SM57. But you know, when you put a grill or a screen on the SM57 to stop the popping, the P's, the blowing on the microphone, so then it will be exactly like the SM58. So that makes it a smaller figure if you want to use that as well. Now, let me see what we have on the list here. Okay, we did the SM58. Let me do the beta. So I don't have a beta 58, but I have a beta 57, which is the same cartridge. So let me plug this. This is right now the beta 57, which sounds extremely close to the beta 58. And you can notice that the high frequency is more pronounced. But if I twist the mic slightly like 30 degrees off, you can see quickly it loses the ability to capture my sound. So these microphones, anything with a super cardioid, you need to maintain your distance to the mic, as in your angle to the axis of the mic. Next, we have the Ksr M9. Ksr M9 is one of my favorite microphones, honestly. Regardless if it's for vocals or even for instruments, it's one of the mics that anywhere I use it, it works just like a charm. By the way, until now, I haven't changed the microphone gain on the input. You will notice on certain mics that I need to push it up, and you will know which ones they are. So I'm going to go with the Ksr M9 right now. This is the Ksr M9. You can notice that the Ksr M9 has a bit of a darker sound versus the beta 57 or 58 as well. It's the same sound, but you can see that it actually does not die as quick as the other microphones, and it actually maintains a good proximity effect. It gives me a wider sweet spot. This microphone is slightly lower in output versus the other mics. So if you're using a Ksm M8, you might need to boost your gain a little bit up. So now I'm on 42 decibels, and you can notice now it's quite loud and clear. But even if I get close to the microphone, you can see there is no bass buildup. I'm speaking in and out right now with the microphone, and you only get the loudness, the overall loudness, which is the square inverse law in audio. But if I do the same thing right now on this microphone, which is next to me here, which I was using initially, let me just unmute and mute that one. So this is the microphone that I started with. When I get close to the microphone, you can see that there's the bass buildup. The humming is getting more on the microphone, while on the Ksm M8, it's just a loudness, but there's no bass buildup on the microphone. So for people who has a lot of body language and they kind of get in and out from the microphone, if that changes the sound behavior on the microphone, the Ksm M8 is a very good option. Again, the Ksm M8 is a flat frequency response. So if I go to my EQ, and all I need to do is just scroll down to about 5 kilohertz and change that to a parametric EQ, and to just boost that up at around 1 octave here. Oh, just by 3.5 decibels. You can see now it's adding more clarity. And then suddenly this microphone is acting like any of the vocal microphones that I had before without any proximity effect. So I'm gonna disable the EQ so we can stay true to the source of the microphones. So next right now, I'm gonna do the ribbon microphones. Now you can notice the drop in the gain. So first, you can see how bassy it is. It's really warm. And I think I'm speaking from the back side of the microphone while this is the front side of the microphone. So this sounds brighter, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Check, 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 check. Or maybe it's just canceling with my ears.
No, you're right. You're right. One side is brighter than the other.
So this is darker.
Mm-hmm.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Yeah, this is brighter.
Okay, so that is the bright side then. So yeah, in that case for vocals, you need to see the emblem at the back. And you notice that I need to kind of increase the gain just a notch versus the other microphone. So we know that the Ksm M8 had slightly lower gain. We increased it. Now I'm going to increase the gain another probably 5 or 6 decibels more. And now the microphone sounds more louder or more perceived. But on the other hand, you can see that the low end is really pronounced there. So if you want to do a very warm vocals, this microphone works its magic really well. If I go on my EQ right now, you can see there's a lot of low frequency combination here. And if I turn my EQ on, add a little bit of air on the top, then this microphone sounds really, really warm. And that's something normal in ribbon microphones. So a lot of people, especially jazz singers, they prefer ribbon microphones for that reason, because the way they sing is really, it has a lot of breath into it, and they like that warmth into the sound. But if somebody wants to do a podcast with that same vibes, ribbon microphones are the way to go. Nevertheless, these are not cheap. Another side note about our ribbon microphones are really durable in terms of build. It's known in the industry that in ribbon microphones, you need to be careful not to phantom power it, not to drop it, not to put it in front of loud sources or kicks. Otherwise, you're going to destroy the ribbon. But our microphones, you can be dropped, you can put it in front of the kicks, you can even phantom power them, and they can still be resilient to that. Now I'm going to switch to the other ribbon microphone, which is this is the 313. I'm going to switch to the 353. So you can see that this one has a bit more clarity. The previous 313 is more tailored to instruments than vocals, while this one is both instruments and vocals. So it has a bit more crisp on the top. And the same thing, this is a bidirectional microphone, so both sides work. Check 1, 2. Now this one as well works the same way. But there's a different tonality. Usually ribbon mics do not have the same exact tonality from both sides. I think you can hear that, JM, correct?
Yes, correct.
Cool. So moving right now into the classic mics. The Super 55, which is the blue tanned microphone, is exactly sounding like this microphone. There are limited edition versions of this that comes in black. For those who follow Metallica, they have that signature one, which is the black on red. And there's a black on black, which was released a couple of years ago. Probably right now they are low in stock. So whoever is interested in that shape, you can try to find one before they are off. The 5575, this is the 5575th anniversary. These were out of stock, I think, by the beginning of or by the end of 19. So I think now the price point of those microphones is just starting to hike up. So now I'm going to plug in my 55SH, which is a cardioid, while the Super 55 is a super cardioid. I'm going to mute the 55 here. So now I'm on the 55SH. The 55SH is the same microphone that was used by Elvis Presley. It's known to have the that kind of piercing mids. Let me take the highs off. Otherwise, it's going to be too much.
Yeah,
it's a bright.
It has a bit of high.
Yeah, I know.
It's very bright.
Yeah, it is a bright microphone, but you can feel a bit of grittiness in this microphone. It's a kind of a grittiness that you like in the vintage recording, and the microphone tends to bring that out right away from your preamp. So if you want to even use a tube preamp or a tube compressor, you can bring out that nice vintage sound right away just with this microphone. So this makes it a ideal choice for that. On the other hand as well, if I look at my gain here, it's pretty hot for this microphone versus other microphones. If I plug any of the other microphones that we started with, it'll be way louder than this one. So this also requires a decent preamp. So that concludes the top range of microphones. Now I'm going to switch to the SM7B. And let's see how the SM7B sounds against all what we tried. The reason why I want to do this is that I know a lot of people want to start podcasting without even thinking. They start thinking about the SM7B because anywhere you go on the internet and you type a podcast microphone, the SM7B has to pop out. But to be honest, any microphone can be a vocal microphone. And each microphone has a slightly different tonalities that you can actually work around with. So let's plug in the SM7B and see how that sounds with the same cable, same EQ. Here's the SM7B. You can see that it's kind of dark because it's a flat response microphone. I do not have any of the switches at the back triggered, so no bass cut, no high boost. So if I want to treat this like a vocal microphone, because right now with the flat frequency response, it is acting as a instrument microphone. Also, you can see that the output is not really high. I need to increase the gain. You can see that it's hitting almost 55. So now it sounds clear or loud enough, but let's play with the switches on the back. So first, let me do a bass roll off. Now I did the bass roll off, and you can see that a lot of the low frequency boom has been taken out, and the mic sounds clearer. But if I do the treble boost or the presence, let's say, now I added the presence, and you can see now it's actually sounding even brighter, but not as bright as the other microphones. It just sounds right. Now, if I strip the microphone just a little bit here, you can see that it has a long shaft bottle here, and the microphone is literally 2 inches away from the edge of the mic. And because I removed the grill, it even sounds brighter right now, or the windscreen, sorry. So once I put the windscreen back, which I did right now, you can see that it darkened the sound a bit. But now it becomes more resilient to popping. So now if I want to be enthusiastic about what I'm doing, or in the middle I got really excited and I'll be yelling, or expressing what I feel about things, I will not worry about the wind blowing on the microphone. So blowing on the microphone does not do anything. While if I remove the windscreen, you can see the popping right away is coming through. But this also is a technique that a lot of people do. You can see that now it is really bright, and it sounds as bright as a condenser microphone. So that's why a lot of the people who want to track vocals in a room that is not the best treatment there, or not the best acoustics, this is a more forgiving microphone because it's a low output microphone, so it's less sensitive generally. So instead of using the windscreen that I have in my hand, they add a pop shield or a pop stopper in front of it, which just stops the plosives but retains the tonality of it. So now I'm going to switch to the condenser microphone series, and let's see, by maintaining the same gain right now, how much difference we get. Sorry, I did not mute. So you heard the popping of the phantom power. You can see that it's really loud right now. Yeah, and I need to reduce my gain. So, by the way, I have and it's also on -15. Now I'm on 0 decibels. So now you can see that I need to even reduce my gain down to probably even 28. So this is the PGA 27. You can see that it works really well. It's clear. It has everything that you need with probably nothing. Let me check if I have anything on the EQ. If I even turn off the low pass filter right now, let me just see that now. No high pass filter. So now that's 100% flat. It has a bass roll off switch here, which you can do if you don't have that. If you don't have a very sophisticated sound card or input, you can do it. So with the switches on the mic. And if your preamp doesn't have a pad, of course you can hear my popping because it needs a popper. If you don't have a pad to reduce the sensitivity, then you can just use the padding switch on the microphone. Shure also sells windscreens, so you can actually it's like a sock. You add it on top. So now it's going to be more resilient to popping. So that actually makes it work better. You lose a little bit of the high frequency response, but it's not going to hurt much. So let's switch to the SM27 right now. Let me mute. And was on -15. So this is the SM27. You can hear that it's more crisp, and the preamp definitely on this microphone is quieter than the PGA 27. But JM probably you can confirm, or even Adnan. You can hear the difference in the ambience.
Yeah, it's a bit warmer. 100%.
I think this one's my favorite so far.
Is it?
Minus the SM7B, obviously, for obvious reasons. But this one, just sound-wise, just no tech background whatsoever. Just to my ears, this sounded a lot nicer for some reason.
Nice. So it also seems to have a slightly less gain versus the PGA 27 to my ears. So maybe a slight boost, like just 2 decibels, makes it just more present, more up in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the popping. You just need to have a shield. By the way, there's a trick if somebody doesn't want to buy a popper, doesn't want to buy the windscreen foam, you get a pen or a pencil and you just put it right in the center of the microphone here. Then it reduces a lot of the popping. It makes it a bit more resilient to that, because this is where the center of the air is and the air starts to move away from that. So this is a quick solution. It's not as effective as a proper pop stopper, but it still works somehow. So remember to keep your pencils or your pens. You can just put a rubber band around it and it works. So next we have the Beta 27. You're going to notice now some difference. So let's go. Now this is the Beta 27. You can notice the low end response is much more pronounced, but it sounds darker because it's way flatter than the SM27. So the first thing needed here is to activate the high pass filter. Now it's less muddy. Probably I will add the presence around 4K, check 1, 2. And now we're getting closer to be like a proper vocal microphone. I think with this tweaks a little bit more or less, like probably like this, it gets close, really close to the SM7B. But Adnan, you can correct me because you can hear me.
Yeah, it sounds good to my ears.
Okay. So generally, if somebody's really into the SM7B sound and you want to get really close to it, the first choice is to choose a flat response microphone, and then you can tailor it slightly, and then you can get really close to it. So now I'm going to move into the Beta 87, which is a condenser microphone. Now I am on the Beta 87. The Beta 87 is made for live performances, so already a minus 15 decibels is applied on it. So the same gain structure of dynamic microphones work here. So probably I'm going to bring it up to about 37 or 38, which is pretty much how we started with the SM57 or the SM58. But you can see that the mids on this is quite clear. Sorry, I think my EQ is on, so it's too bright. Sorry, JM, I know you hate the brightness. So
Barry, if you don't mind, I see some names in the attendees that I know are podcasters and
yes.
And have some experience in podcasting. I just want to ask Seth and everyone else in the house, have you used the SM7B and have you tried anything before that, or did you go straight to the SM7B just out of curiosity?
Yeah, you can type your comments in the Q&A box. So we can have that along with the other question and answer. Sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. So there's a Q&A box at the bottom right. You can put that in, any question. If you want to address the question to any one of us, just put at with the name. If it's just a general question, then just write the question directly and somebody will pick that up. Is there any comments already here? Good. I see Serge. Nice to see you, Serge. It's been a while. Cool. So you can see that the 87 on a flat frequency response does not have that honky mids, even though it's a condenser microphone. So it sounds sweet like any other dynamic microphone. Nevertheless, it doesn't have a lot of a low end frequency response like other dynamic microphones, especially like the ribbon microphones. So now I'm going to move from this into the Ksr M9, and with the Ksr M9, I have something actually a twist here, which is something that the company recently produced. So let me just talk about it briefly. And I think I need to stop the screen sharing for that reason as well. So let me just switch back to my microphone. Okay. So let's go. So this is a new product that Shure launched in last July. Unfortunately, not everybody knows about it quite well, so I'll take this opportunity to explain it. Now, this looks like a wireless handle. For those who know the wireless Shure microphones, it looks very similar to it in terms of a form factor and the size. But this is not a wireless microphone. This is a wired handle with a preamp in it as well. So what happens is the threading on the top here is the same threading that accepts any of the replacement cartridges that goes on the wireless microphones. So this turns this into a universal preamp for any of the cartridges that Shure produces. And if you are a person that likes to switch microphones for, of course, numerous reasons like different setups, different atmospheres, different stage setups, or even different songs, this makes it a perfect tool for that. So what you need to get, you get the handle, you get your cartridges in a small case, and you switch your cartridges. So the reason why I use this right now is that I don't have a Ksr M9 here, but I have a Ksr M9 capsule, which I'm going to screw on right now. One thing you need to notice as well is that because there's a preamp in here, in the handheld, also there's a preamp in the cartridge that acts kind of like a cloud lifter. So if you're using a Ksr M8 with this handle, you don't need to add that extra boost that we did before versus the other microphones. So I'm going to switch to this right now so you can hear it. Now I'm in the Ksr M9, and you can see that it's quite hot versus the Beta 87, but you can see that it's really balanced as a condenser microphone, and it sounds pretty much out of the box as a very good podcasting microphone. And because it's a condenser microphone, plus that there is a boost in my VPH handle. This hardware is called VPH. It's made for broadcasting initially. That's why it's long, but I think that there's way more purposes than just broadcasting for this thing. So now I think I am at 30 something. Yeah, 39 decibels, which I think it's on the high side. I can actually reduce that a little bit, and it'll be even more convenient. So what I can do right now is I'm going to switch the capsule to a Ksr M8 capsule and see how that translates on the same amount of gain and see how that goes. Now I'm using the Ksr M8, and you can see that with the same gain structure, it's very close to the Ksr M9. So I don't really need to add more. I remember we went all the way up to 40 something when I put the Ksr M8, the wired version, the black one here, that one. So because of the preamp and the VPH, it's actually working really well to make the Ksr M8 sound the way it should be. And you can see that it has an extra warmth against the Ksr M9 with the flat frequency response. So probably here you need to add just the high pass filter, and then it makes it good to go. Now, the last in the family are the two studio microphones. I have the Ksr M44 here, which I will try. So let me just plug it in. So now I'm on the Ksr M44. You can see that it's really hot, and I need to reduce the gain right now. Sorry for your ears. Down to 29. So now I'm on the cardioid polar pattern. I can switch to Omni. Now I'm on Omni. You can feel that the microphone has no directions anymore. I can just twist it anywhere, and there's no favored side. Or I can go with a figure 8. Is good for both sides. Dead on the side, good on the back side as well. This is good for having two people sharing one microphone. So If I have Adnan in front of me, when I have a microphone in the middle, then we can both share the same microphone. And pretty much that's it. Again, this sounds very balanced as well as it is. I have the equalizer on. Let me just turn it off. So even with the EQ off, we don't have a lot of bass buildup on this microphone. Now I'm back to the Cardioid. So the Cardioid, of course, gives you the most brightness of the microphone. This mic is extremely flat below 4 kilohertz. So below 4 kilohertz, there's no coloration of whatsoever. From 20 hertz up to 4 kilohertz, it's 100% flat microphone. Up to 4 kilohertz, there's a bit of presence added to this, just to make it a vocal microphone. So it is a really, really nice microphone, and it has a very good sensitivity as well. I don't need to be close to the microphone to get clarity. So this is a quick shootout to these microphones. I'll do one more shootout, and sorry to make it long, with the MVI as an interface and the SM7B. So let me just switch back to my mic here. So the MVI is one of the smallest interfaces that are compatible with smartphones. And the advantage of this is that it brings a lot of the professional equipment to the hands of the people who do not want to get into the complexity of editing, trimming, or anything like this. All you need to do, you plug in that interface into your phone. The interface has an XLR and an instrument input. It has a phantom power as well. Everything on the interface, as I mentioned last week, is a touch sensitive, so nothing to break on this, including the gain, the mutes, and your volume. So I'm going to plug in the SM7B again, because we all know that this mic requires really high gain preamps. So here we go. The mic is plugged in and I can see the level. Let me mute this one next to me. Now I am on SM7B through the MVI. I'll flatten my EQ. So this way we are more true. So the MVI has a switch for adding more gain, which is a 20 decibels more gain on the input. I think I can reduce my gain just a tad right now to make it around 28 decibels plus 20, so that's about 48 decibels with a bit of compression. So I think it sounds clear right now. How do you hear me, Adnan? JM?
It sounds good. And I'm very curious, you could record this directly onto your phone, basically, right?
Literally, yes. So on your phone, on the Motive app, you have a built-in recorder. So all you need to do is just hit record, and you can record in any format that suits you. You can go with ACC, you can go with PCM, and you can even choose the compression of your compressed format down to 96 kilobits per second. So based on how much storage you have on your phone, you can choose the kind of format. Added to this is that there's another application that uses the same engine, which is the Motive Video Plus. It enables your camera with the full control over your audio and video. So you can choose your video format, your video frame rate, your audio level. You can see your audio level on the screen as well. And you can control the gain anytime by just sliding your gain in and out. So what happens is that you don't need to switch applications, which a lot of us suffered in the past when you use an external microphone on your phone. So that makes a lot of the people who want to start podcasting, it's much easier than ever before. A lot of the people wanted to do podcasting before, they need to team up with somebody who's technical to take care of this, and then, do a lot of editing, then they can go online. Now you can actually just plug in your microphone. You can go literally online on the spot. So,
and a podcast like mine, for example, this opens up the door for making it more mobile, because I can imagine sticking the phone on a little tripod, for example, plugging the SM7B directly into the interface and going live on Facebook as I would, but with the phone camera and the audio from the interface.
That is very correct. I mean, a lot of us right now require more mobility. They want to cover things that was not covered before. So if anyone goes online and check the Motive products, you would notice one thing in common is that all you need to add is your phone to convert that external mic into a moving studio. All the Motive microphones has a built-in DSP, EQ compressor, and a limiter. In addition, that the MVI, which stands for interface, has the additional 20 dBs boost to accommodate certain microphones like the SM7B. Of course, all of them have a headphone output, so you can plug in your earphones or headphones, which is something we're going to talk about right now, and you're good to go. I mean, all the phones have really decent cameras. Of course, for those who have DSLRs, they know the difference, but it's decent enough to create content to go online with. So that means you can add right now additional footage with high quality audio to your content, and that is the added twist. Now, to kind of get to the final part of the podcast, and of course allow our guests to share their inputs and their experiences, I'd like to switch back to my screen again for the last part here. So we saw all these microphones and we heard them, and now let's talk about the podcast with video. Thank you, Adnan, for bringing up the video part. The reason why I love having Adnan today is that Adnan did a twist that a lot of the other podcasters have not done it his way yet, or maybe they are starting to, but it's not becoming the common thing in podcasting. The common thing in podcasting is recording the audio, people tune to it like a radio station and they listen to it. But now people are recording video. And because of the norm in podcasting being a radio station-like kind of setup. So you sit in a place that could be as neat as possible or as messy as possible, like mine. And then you need to wear your headphones on top, and suddenly you might look like Mickey Mouse. So how are we going to go from there? If you're happy to do this, I mean, of course, I cannot have anything about this and tell you not to do it. But what if you can look really yourself and look really free, but you're still monitoring the audio? And that is a twist that I'd love to elaborate on right now really quick, because myself right now, and of course my two guests, are wearing this kind of in-ears, which is inherited from musicians, of course, who perform on stage with a good noise attenuation, freedom of movement, and of course, the most of all is ear protection. So these in-ears actually, they sit really transparent. You can see that they sit flush in the ear. Look at that picture here with the black in-ears. Sits really well in the ear cavity quite well. It also blocks the ear canal like properly from any kind of exterior noise. So it's a passive noise isolation, and it's not noise cancellation. Noise isolation can go down to 38 decibels, which is quite a lot. So if you're going inside a club where it's pumping down there close to 105, 110 decibels, it brings it down to almost like a classroom noise, which is way more bearable than sitting in 105 decibels. Moreover, 105 decibels only gives you 15 to 20 minutes of listening at the same frequency response that your ears are at. After that, you lose sensitivity at 4 kilohertz by 20 decibels. And the other 10 minutes is another 5 to 10 decibels loss in the 4 kilohertz. So by the time you finish your party at the club, hopefully when they are back, of course, everything sounds like you are covering your ears and you're having that strong ping in your ears. So these in-ears, they work perfectly to protect your ears. Moreover, when you're doing your podcast in front of a video camera, and of course now Adnan is going to show us how he does his switching and how important then looking like yourself versus looking with your pair of headphones makes a difference. So I personally am wearing right now my earphones. I think Adnan is doing as well, and JM. Before we go to the questions, I'm going to switch on my screen.
I got mine as well.
Nice. So I'm going to open the platform to Adnan right now to show us how he does his podcast, and then probably he can tell us about how he even came into podcasting. I know Adnan as a monster vocalist on stage. This guy really owns it when he's on stage. Even when he's rehearsing, I mean, he's a monster. And
Thank you, man.
I didn't know that he started podcast, but when he called me just a while ago about his podcast setup, I was like, wow, man. I was like, I'm really impressed with how you changed your stars from a stage, a front man of a band on stage, holding the mic to break it, and then now he's on a desk, nice and sweet, and
Still not that nice. Still not that nice. But no, I mean, basically, the way it happened was JM and I wanted to talk to the Svengali family, to the Svengali fans, and we were in quarantine at the time. He couldn't come to my house. I couldn't go to his house, and we were like, how do we end up doing a clean, good-looking, conversation with the people that support the band? And JM actually came up with it. I had this software called OBS that we've never used, and we figured out that if we do a call, we can plug the videos into OBS and then use OBS as the switching board, basically, to cut between his camera and my camera. And he has his microphone set up, and he sent me the SM7B setup to set it up here. And that was basically it. And then we did that to just as a band the first time, and then everyone wanted more. So I was like, let's turn this into a conversation with artists in general from all forms of creative outputs and stuff. And then it turned into a podcast. Where episode 31 just happened yesterday.
Wow, that was quite impressive. I mean, in no time you got that much content already. And I can see that your engagement level is with the let's say your grassroots is where you grew up. It's like with the local scene, with everybody that we just like hang out with. So
it's very cool to have people come out and support the stuff, and it's because it's live. It's very interactive, so people comment and we respond to the comments right away. If they have any questions for the guest or myself, we
nice.
kind of go for it right away.
That is quite a twist, because everybody knows that podcasts are like one too many. It's like a radio station, you broadcast, and then that's it. Maybe people can comment later on after some time, but you do that live, right?
Yes, we do everything live. All the comments live. We try to get to as many comments as possible.
Nice. So can you show me through your setup? Like how do you prepare your video setup? I think right now you have all the sources. You have mine, you have JM, you have yours.
Yeah, so I'll show you guys this like that. If I turn you there and I turn this up. So
wow.
I can see you there. You're already my guest. You're my guest for today. Say I want to cut to a close-up of you. I get your close-up. Obviously, that empty side is going to be where the comments scroll up and down.
Oh, so you have the comments also live on screen.
Live on screen, yeah. We coded it so it comes up live on screen straight from Facebook. We can go back here. I can get a close-up of myself if there's any need for that. The comments are under this section. I have my patron names scrolling at all times for the people that support the show. Things like, for example, yesterday's episode where I was talking to a rapper, Freak here from Abu Dhabi, and we cut to footage of his music video. For example, while he was talking about the music video, we cut the footage of him live at the F1 in Abu Dhabi while we were talking about that with his caption, all the like URL stuff. And it's basically all triggered through very simple hotkeys that I've set up on my keyboard, on my number pad.
Lovely. That's definitely a next level into podcasting. You're literally hosting a TV-like show from your home.
Yeah, that was the main idea. Is if we can bring the production level that we usually do through the company, through CTG, and for the bands Bengali, if we can bring that to the podcast and kind of elevate, because everyone can jump on a Zoom call and broadcast it to YouTube. It's a subscription away. But
Sure.
What would make the podcast stand out is something like this, like being able to cut to you and turn the music up when you're telling an emotional story, for example. which we've done. You know, we have people open up about their past, about the struggles they've been. Instead of just sitting there talking about it, I cut to a close-up. The comments are scrolling next to him. The music turns up a little. It turns into a little bit more of a production than
Nice.
and the value given to the audience is they're immersed in the story a lot more than if it was just a listening part.
Absolutely. So speaking about the technical part, I know JM was backing you technically a lot.
JM did everything I just explained.
Nice. So he's the man behind the scene then. So
Yes.
I know JM, you're a guitarist, and I know you've always been a guy who's very techy and fiddly about your gear. Since the days I had my warehouse or something. But speaking about the selection of mics, I mean, how did you come to these selection of microphones? What was the thing that brought you in this, and what kind of homework you did to get that?
All right. So with this Bengali stuff, when we're recording the album, like you mentioned something about our live performance and about Adnan, you know, jumping around and all that stuff. And I think the core thing we wanted to do before we actually picked any mics was to be able to translate the energy that we have on stage into that new record. And that's always the common word. Whether you like us, you hate us, you don't like the music, you like the music. There was always one word that was always common in what we did, and that was energy, right? And we tried to do that in the album. So when, like, we technically did almost exactly what you did in your presentation, right? Like go through different mics and try different mics and see what works best, because I believe there is no one mic that would work for everything, right? Like, or one mic that, like, if one mic works for your voice, it might be completely different, you know, to my voice, because we have different frequencies, right? So that frequency response is completely different. And yeah, we went through trying different setups, and I think the first thing that was bothering Adnan is the fact that he had to stand in front of a mic and try and scream, right? Like that was one of the main issues. It wasn't which mic do we use or which mic do we pick. It was, I just hate this. This is not me. This is not how we do it. This is not, like, that's just not working. So that shifted into finding a mic that you can actually grab and scream into it and kind of deliver that energy live, so that we usually deliver. So we came into the SM7B first. I think it's because of it's a very high SPL microphone. Like, you can really scream at it if you know what I mean. So to be honest, it was a bit as well, because you see most of the bands that you like using that mic. So it was like, hold on, let's see what's the fuss is about, right? Like, why are all these other bands using that? And I think it just worked. Like, it worked with Adnan's voice. It worked with what we were trying to do and how he wanted to sing into the record. And it just worked, like, really, really, really nice with his, tone. But for example, it did not work on the clean vocals at all. We ended up using the SM27, for the cleans. So, yeah, exactly. Nice. Like, for Josh's voice, the SM27 was the fit.
Wow.
So yeah, that's technically what we did. We kind of went through the mics, went through all the different mics, checked what worked best, and worked with it. Nice. To be honest.
Nice. And how did you come about with the gain on the SM7B? I mean, everybody knows that this microphone requires a lot of gain on the input, and a lot of people get really disappointed. They buy the microphone, they think they're gonna get what they're looking for. They plug it into a entry-level interface that does not provide more than 40 or 50 decibels of gain, and then, they start.
I think here. Yes, 100%. I think here, like the factor that comes at play is what you're using it for, right? Like, I was using, and I still do. I use a Scarlett 4i4 interface, which is an entry level, interface. It's nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. For the screamings, for all the screaming that we've done, it was fine. Like the gain on that was completely fine. I didn't even have to push it that much. But for example, now when Adnan is doing the podcasting and he's just more doing his normal voice, not really, pushing that SPL, we had to push the gain a bit more. And I think this is where preamps come into play and all that stuff. But for us, we did not have to use it. I think he might need to use it later on with his interface for his talking level, but we didn't really need to use it on the album.
Nice. So to get to the last point today, which is to recap on the in-ears. I know a lot of people have a struggle to shift to in-ears, even from headphones. Did you guys face this issue? I mean, was there a bit of a struggle at starting with in-ears before, let's say, before using in-ears before, even in podcasts?
For me, it was a bit of a struggle. The shift, especially on stage, the shift from monitors to in-ears. At first, I was trying to find the comfort level, like where I'm supposed to, what I'm supposed to feel and stuff, because it's a very different sensation. But then I got more comfortable with it on stage for sure. And for the podcast, I started directly with the in-ears. I thought it might get uncomfortable after a while. It might do any of that, but every time I've tried big headphones or kind of the standard earbuds, I'd get fatigued real quick. With these guys, I've done like 4-hour podcasts, sat here with the in-ears in, and they're just so comfortable and like freeing. Like you said, there's no nothing around my face. There's nothing that can distract me. So it's very, very comfortable for me.
Lovely.
And for me, to be honest, I still don't use them live. I can't transition yet. Something is still missing for me. But to be honest, I started using in-ears because I wanted to be able to sleep on airplanes. And I travel a lot. I travel a lot with work, right? So and sometimes I do overnight flights and all that stuff. And I'm used to, like you said, like I use them as attenuators, so I can and listen to music at the same time. And obviously, you can't really sleep when you have big headphones on. So the fact that, like you said, they're just flushed within your ears is a lot easier to sleep with them. That's how I started doing the in-ears. And I use them, whether I'm tracking and all that stuff. It's a bit less bulky and less things to worry about. But in terms of, I use them in the jam session as well, to attenuate as well, all the loudness that happen. But in terms of using them live, I'm still not there yet. Something is still missing for me when it comes to live performance.
Yeah, I do hear that a lot. But what I do usually offer for people who are starting to use in-ears on stage for the first time, that I try to give them the same feel of the live feel on their in-ears as in a proper stereo mix. But that is a completely different subject, definitely.
Yeah.
I think we got to the end of the show today so far. I'd just like to ask if there's any questions from the attendees. Please fill it out in the Q&A. Another side note here is that this session will be recorded and it will be posted on YouTube. So you can reach out to Shure MEA on YouTube channel and you will find the recording down there with all the details that is added, of course, like presentations or anything like this.
Awesome.
You can also reach out to us on our Facebook page as well, which is under the same name. Any comments? I think this is already broadcasting on Facebook, so people on Facebook can always type in any questions to reach out to any of us. Finally here, I'd like to thank both of you, JM and Adnan. It was really nice to have you here today on our webinar. So thank you for...
It was nice to be here, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you
for having us, dude.
With this. And until the next show, I hope you all stay safe and good, and hope you have a good weekend as well. So until then, see you soon. Goodbye.
All right. See you.